feeling well. And of course, the Barons are out of town, and Warren is home. We need to remember him. He's had another little thing that happened today, but he's over it. But he's got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so we need to keep Warren in our prayers. And of course, there's some others that are gone. But nonetheless, we're going to get into our Bible study. Before we do, Mark Nevins is down. We're going to get him to lead in our opening word of prayer tonight. Let's pray.
Father, as we come forward our throne this evening, we're grateful for this privilege to come to this place, Father. Pray that we can bring our minds and thoughts out of the world and focus upon the things we can call this evening. As we look upon our word and rightly guide. Pray, Father, that we can make applications to yourself, that we can go out and defend the word when we can. Pray, Father, that we be with us this time and look over the session. Also, for those that have been sick in the last week and continue, we pray for their restored health. We be grateful, Father, for those that you have restored. Force their health so that they once again be with us. We ask, Father, this time to give us a chance.
Amen. Matthew 13. Lesson 20 on the parables that we're going through. We're in Matthew 13. I went ahead and printed on the back the last two. Well, Chuck, there's 3 more classes in this quarter. And so you've got lesson number 21 and 22 printed at the back, yes. But the last lesson of the month on a Wednesday night is the review of 22 parables. And that's where I quiz you, and we'll just see what we can recall over that time of study and give you a heads up of how many you can actually remember, how many different parables. And so that's what we're going to do. So again, those question sheets are in the back. All right, in Matthew the 13th chapter, and if you did pick up a sheet, and of course I mentioned it in the email on Monday morning, we're going, okay, Chuck's got like a 45-minute class on verses 44, 45, and 46. What's he going to do for 3 verses? It's a good question. But there is a lot of material that we're going to learn from these verses. But of course, I think what's important for us is to see where this parable fits. I mean, it's like smack dab in between 2. And like, in other words, there was one just before it, and then there's one that's after it. You guys remember the parable of the tares. And of course, the point that he was trying to drive home there as far as judgment day and accountability, which is what we're not talking about in our parables of the hidden treasure and the pearl of great price. They were similar, so just Jesus mentioned them back to back, so we put them together. But remember, let me just read a little bit here of the parable before, as it came down to an end. In verse 41 of Matthew 13, it said, "The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Of course, he's ending right there talking about the kingdom and the separation, the purity, that there's not going to be impurities there. There's not going to be the wicked that are there. And so that's why he goes into verses 44, 45, 46, which we'll read in a moment. But then look what he talks about in verse 47. Again, the verses we're going to study tonight is in between these two. And so he says in verse 47, "And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that was cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to the shore, and they sat down and gathered the good into the vessels and threw the bad away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth and separate the wicked from the just and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth." And so in between the two, I just want you to picture this, because in just a moment I'm going to get Christina, if she'll just read verses 44, 45, and 46 in just a moment. But in between, we have this idea of the separating the good from the bad, obviously talking about heaven and hell and those that are righteous and those that are unrighteous. neither one of them are really what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're not talking about the separation. Okay? But I think you can see how the parables that we're going to study tonight fit into this. Because if you're talking about the separation, the good from the bad, let's just talk about the good. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the kingdom tonight. And so, Christina, what do we have in verses 44, 45, and 46?
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchantman, seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. All right.
So, get your participation. Both those parables, and we'll talk about what was in between. Remember, he's talking about the good and the bad over here being separated in the parable before. And in the parable after, again, you have the good and the bad being talked about. All right. What I want us to do now is focus on what these parables are doing. What are these parables focusing on right now? What are these focusing on?
The kingdom.
Okay, so he's talking about the kingdom, and so where's the link between the two parables and now that we're talking about the kingdom? Where's the link? What's the link? Nikki.
It's talking about what you have to be willing to give up to lay claim to the kingdom.
Okay.
You have to be the good that was separated from the bad to be in the kingdom. So.
That's exactly right. So we're talking about well, what was that process? How did that all come about? I mean, if you have the separation from the good and the bad, which is, I mean, it's there. And again, without getting into those other parables, I think it's imperative that we understand that there's that distinction between the two. That man, what does man want to do with the good and the bad? What do they want to put in here?
Gray.
They want that gray area. They don't they? They want that gray area. And that's not what we're going to be discussing tonight, but there isn't a gray area. It's cut and dry. You're either faithful or you're not. Because, well, I'm kind of faithful. No, you're not. You're faithful or you're not. You can't kind of be. You are or you aren't. And that's what the Bible talks about. You know how many studies I've been in where people have said, and you guys can answer me why they say this. When I get into a Bible study and somebody's not living like they should, and they say, and they give this statement, God knows my heart. What are they saying?
God overlooks my bad behavior because I have good motives deep down.
Yeah, I got good intentions, you know. Deep down inside, I really haven't forsaken Him. Listen, if you're not faithful to God, then you are unfaithful. This isn't rocket science here. What our parable does tonight is focusing on why are we wanting to be in this kingdom? Can somebody please turn in their Bibles, and the first one there gets to read it, okay? 2 verses. Colossians chapter 1, I want you to read verse 13 and then read verse 18. First one there gets it. Colossians 1, verse 13, and then verse 18. Thank you, guys.
He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of His beloved Son. In verse 18. And He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything He might be preeminent.
Okay, so verse 13 talked about what?
Kingdom being transferred into the kingdom.
Who's in the kingdom?
Us.
Who's us?
The one that was rescued from
Yeah, so we're talking about better be good, right? The good are transferred into the kingdom, okay? And then she used another word in verse 18, Colossians. Was what? Church. The kingdom used synonymously. Now I like that because when we talked about Colossians chapter 1, 13 and 18, can you think of another passage of scripture that links those two together? You're almost committed there, Amy. You're scratching, but it looked like you're putting your hand up. Does anybody know? Remember when Jesus said, I'm going to what? I'm going to build my church. But then what did he also go on to say? I'll give you to what? The kingdom. Oh, wait, are you talking about the church or are you talking about the kingdom? They're one in the same, folks. They're one in the same. James.
Really?
church is the called out. So the called out in the kingdom.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Can you have one without the other? No. No, you can't. You can't. I mean, they're inseparable is the point. Just different aspects of this spiritual body that we're a part of because Christ is the King. Now, I haven't ventured too far up and said, well, Chuck, are we ever going to talk about the parable? Well, we are, because as Christine read in verse 44, again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid, and for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. So let's just talk about two aspects of this tonight. First of all, let's talk about the treasure, and let's talk about the person who wanted the treasure. Okay? So first of all, what can you tell me about the treasure? Amy?
It's something that can be found.
I like that. Okay. I thought you were going to state the obvious thing that people would say right off the bat, which might raise an eyebrow when we're thinking about this kingdom, the church. We might say, number one, is it hidden?
It says treasure hidden in the field. Hidden.
Oh, treasure's hidden. Nikki?
It's not hidden in the sense that you can't find it. It's just hidden in the sense that you have to be looking for it.
Well, and of course, that's what Amy said, so it can be found. I want somebody to get, first one there gets to read it. Luke 10. Luke 10, 21 through 24. Luke 10, 21 through 24, and the winner is Matt.
In that hour, Jesus rejoiced in the Spirit and said, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and prudent and revealed them to babes. Even so, or revealed them to babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in your sight.
Okay, so what is Jesus thanking God for? What did he mention in there, Matt? That ties to what we're talking about.
That it's been revealed to those that are seeking it. And this, he mentions babes here, but basically it's the pure in heart that are seeking to do the truth, as opposed to those that are kind of, look at me, I'm a holy person.
Yeah, and who did he say was it hidden from then?
From the
So you had
wise and prudent.
the wise and the prudent. Of course, we talked about the wise on Sunday, didn't we not? Well, isn't wisdom a good thing? How is it hidden from the wise? It's hidden from the wise of this world. Remember, that was the sermon on Sunday. You have wisdom that's from above and wisdom that's from below. And, of course, yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you, and remember our very first study on the parables. You guys remember Matthew 13? We're right back where we started. And we studied the in-between. We read about the parable of the sower, which was our first one that we studied, the parable of the sower. But in between, he talked about how that in verse 14, hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive, for the hearts of the people have grown dull. Their ears are hard of hearing, their eyes have been closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so I should heal them. So he was talking about there that, believe it or not, parables that we've been studying to make points clear, actually, Jesus said parables are to hide the truth. Is that true? Well, in line with what we've been discussing, it hides it from who? It hides it from people who don't want to see. It hides it from the wise of this world, the prudent that he talked about, that Jesus prayed about. You know, you can have people, you can be in a Bible study. Have you guys ever been in a Bible study? You showed them the verse and they go, I don't see that. I don't see what you see. Does that ever happen? I don't know if you've ever run into it, but I've showed people verses and they go, I don't see it. How come they don't see it? They don't want to see it. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so when he talks about the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that's hidden in a field. So we got, well, it's like hidden, but it can be found. Come on, there's some obvious points that we can learn about this treasure. Gene?
When I read 44, the hidden thing that doesn't impress me as much as the value of the kingdom.
Oh, see, that's one point I wanted, Gene, and that is, because I kept saying treasure, treasure. There was a treasure. Whenever you think of a treasure, is it finding a piece of garbage? No, you don't come home and say, honey, look what I found. You know, that's trash. Throw it away. You know. You guys are sitting there going, what's up with this? Okay. Yeah, this treasure, that's, again, part of it, how the person can find it, but you're not going to find it if you place very little value on this. You don't go looking for stuff that you don't care about. Nicole?
Well, and we can see that not just does it have value, it's not just trash, but it was worth every other thing in his life. I mean, it was worth for him to give up everything to get this treasure.
That's exactly right. And I want you to remember that when we get over here, we talk about the guy, okay? But you're stressing how valuable it is, right? And that's in his eyes, which we need to see. Matt, what were you going to say?
It was something that was worth, there was no doubt. Like it was instant. It doesn't say he went home and pondered, should I buy this field? Should I not? Like it was, I got to do this. And so there was no doubt in his mind that it was worth an instant reaction, no matter how crazy it may seem to sell everything and go after this. It was clearly worth it.
Well, and that's kind of what Nicole was talking about. But yeah, you're talking about this value. You can know it. He knew it. He knew its true value. You know, we're not talking about the kingdom of heaven to go, well, what's the big deal about the kingdom of heaven? The Bible's not silent about this, and that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit later. It is something that we can grasp. We can understand its value. Do you guys understand the value of gold? You guys understand the value of gold. You get that. What are you going to say, Janet?
Well, and it mentions joy, the joy in finding it or the joy of owning it, maybe.
Okay, since we're doing this, I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's good because I want us to be thinking of all of that. And so when we're talking about the treasure itself and we're talking about the person, and I guess I've overlapped it with number 4, that he knew its value. But Nicole, you said something a moment ago about he was willing to sell all. Why? I want that, right?
He knew the value of it.
See, and that's the key to all. You're not, of course, when you sell all, can you give me a word that we might throw in here? Sacrifice. I like that. Okay. Sacrifice. All right. Now, you're willing to sacrifice only that which is valuable. I didn't want to pick on animal lovers here, but I'm saying, is there a difference of taking a bullet for your child or taking a bullet for your dog? You know, well, you might like your dog. That's fine. But I'm just saying, when you'll sacrifice all that you have for something that you really place that value, at least you understand what it is. What do you say, Dan?
When you think about the apostles, they gave up their life to them and said, okay, I'm following you.
That's exactly right.
What an example.
Yep. What else can you tell me about this guy?
He was looking for something.
Okay. Can you find what you're not looking for? I guess you might stumble upon it, but still you got to be looking, Nikki.
I was going to say, in spite of having to sell everything he had to get it, he was joyful about it. He recognized that it was more than worth everything he had sold, and that what he got in return was so much better than everything he gave up.
I'm telling you guys, tonight's lesson is so powerful because we are learning that if we don't really get this, the true value, you're not going to sacrifice. There's not going to be true joy. Do you know anybody, have you ever met anybody that went to worship God but not happy? Do you ever meet anybody like that or just wish they were somewhere else? You know, I told you before, remember I went to services and the guy went back and he went, and he really goes, Can't believe I'm on for the Lord's Supper this morning. If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have come. Oh man, that really picked me up this morning. Full of joy. You know, that kind of thing, because you're not appreciating it, Tim.
Well, I think number 4, I was gonna say he was shrewd, thinking about being smart about things and being knowledgeable, that he did it again. He didn't want to lose it, and then he went to get the money to buy the field where he hid it.
Right.
If I don't hide it again, I might lose this, so I need to be smart about this. I found it, let me hide it again. I don't want anybody else to find this. I don't want to lose this.
Right.
And then let me go do what I need to do so I can obtain it.
Exactly. He's going to do everything that he can to make sure. And again, it's back to the sacrifice that we have involved in this. And I'm going to tell you, within all of this, sooner or later, we're going to have to bring up in our discussion, how can we as a people today learn this? I mean, how do you learn to value? I mean, isn't that the key? It's like a husband and wife. If you don't really value your wife, if you don't value your husband, you're just willing to toss that aside. We make sacrifices for those that we love. We're looking out for them and we want it, as we talked about here. How do you learn that? How can we learn to value this? Any ideas?
Well, I think we have to learn to value the sacrifice that Christ made for us. If we don't value what it took for him to pave the way for us, then we're not going to value what the opportunity that's there. Like you said earlier, somebody else sees, if you see the find a piece of garbage, well, value's in the eye of the beholder, right? Somebody else who found that same treasure said, that's trash, I'm leaving it.
True, and I agree with you, Tim, but, but to play the devil's advocate, I'm saying, you're talking about, a love and appreciation for what he did to get me to want to become a part of this and want it. And I'm sure I know there's a connection between that. As a Christian, I know there's a connection. But if we just focused on this alone, what are we going to say? I saw you and Jesse's hand go up.
I was going to say, you have to have familiarity with it. Like I could find a really valuable gemstone on the ground and look at it and go, ooh, I bet that's worth some money. But a jeweler who's really intimately familiar with precious gemstones is going to look at it and go, that's really rare. I know exactly how much that's worth. Because he handles it and he's familiar with it. I think you have to develop some level of intimacy with God's word and know what you're looking at to understand the value.
I think you're onto something. What are we going to say, Ron?
What am I going to get out of it? Yeah. It's basically what you're looking for. I mean, what values do I put on it that's going to make me happy? For instance, in this life, there's a lot of pain and suffering and so forth. In heaven, there is none. That I value because of the pain and suffering that I've incurred here. Right. So the key is, what value does it bring to me? It sounds kind of self-centered, but
and that's great. And I've got 1,000 hands here. But what Nikki was talking about made me think of the Antique Roadshow. You guys ever see it? And what is it that most people bring? Do they know its value? I mean, they're clueless. They're like, have you ever had it appraised? They'll say, no. And then they, surprised. Some of them are really surprised at the value of it. And that's what makes people successful, when you can go to a rummage sale and spot something. In Canada years ago, and there was a big debate whether the guy was really being nice about it. But a guy went up to a garage sale and found a gem, and he knew what the stone was, and he asked the person there, what do you really want for this? And he goes, $10. It was worth $1 million. They cut it open, and the inside, he knew on the inside, just because he knew rocks. There's a better word for it than what I'm putting up with. And I had it there. But that knowledge is the key. And the problem comes is when you can have the knowledge, or if you forget it, because we're talking about the sacrifices, you and I. Would we go to this extent? How many? Well, Chuck, I would do this in a heartbeat, man. If I came across something like this, I would sell my house if I knew that I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose. And none of us will lose. Amy, I'll give you and then Nicole.
I think sort of along what Brian said, we have to understand the alternative. Like, here's the kingdom, but you can't understand good without understanding what bad is. You have to look at them in comparison. We don't know that we have to find the kingdom until we know we're lost. We don't
That's
know
the
we
key.
need the kingdom until we know we're lost.
And that comes back to Tim's point, because it has to enter into the picture. You have to know of why I even have access to this, why it can be found, why would the Lord even allow me to have all this knowledge. Yeah, I mean, that's why we got to think outside the parable in itself, because the parable has a spiritual meaning to it, okay? And so from us, from a Christian standpoint, we're looking at this person and saying, well, yeah, he gets it, he understands it. And let me just quickly mention this one, because we'll interject it throughout our study also. When he talked about the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. Now, what's interesting about this, and because it just adds to the point you guys were making, if a person is seeking, what kind of pearls did he say? Beautiful pearls. He knows what he's looking for. Because he says, when he found one pearl of great price. Now, how did he know that it was so valuable? You guys already mentioned. He had the knowledge. He had the understanding. You could say he had the expertise. Well, you and I get that way. We use terms like maturity, but we get that when we study to show ourselves approved. Nicole, can you recall what you were going to say a while back?
It was
It's
like
gone?
the same.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. And that's cool. Now, if we focus more on I got to get rid of this stuff off the board here. I want to talk a little bit more now, and you guys, I want you to be thinking of Bible verses. Like, we're studying more than just 3 verses. Okay. I want us to talk about now the verses. That's you. If we have a visitor in here, let's say, and we want them to value the kingdom like we do, or we want Christians who are young in the faith, who are not strong, to value it even more. So, what can a person do to increase that? All right? What can they do? And you guys are touching on some things. I'm talking about more than just knowledge. I want you to be a little more specific in that when we talk about it. All right? What can a person do to value the kingdom or the church? Because I'm telling you, if people don't value it, it's going to be more like a burden to them. And there's not going to be genuine joy. There's not going to be sacrifice. Right? They're not seeking it. So what can you tell them? If somebody said to me, why should I even care? A person says, man, you might want to hold on to that pearl. Why? Man, that's pretty special. That seems pretty valuable. Tim.
Understand the benefits.
Big one. In our story, what was the benefits in the parable? What was the benefit? I mean, let's just take it with the parable. Forget the spiritual application right now. What was the benefit of this guy finding that treasure, hiding it in the field, and then buying the field? What was the benefit in that?
He gained more than he had.
Absolutely. He gained more. I mean, if it was going to be less, do you sell everything? Do you sell thousands of dollars worth of stuff to find something that's worth $5? You don't do that. You gain something from it. Okay, so there are benefits. So let's talk about that. So the benefits, what do we gain? And Amy, it comes back to what you were. Amy's gone. She was here a moment ago. Well, remember what Amy was talking about. What are the benefits? Prayer. Okay. Prayer. Anything else?
Salvation.
Remission of sin. Being saved. Being saved. The saved are added to the church. What are the benefits? Come on, guys, there's some huge ones here.
Heaven.
Heaven, like that. That's what it's all about.
Peace.
What?
Peace.
Peace. What else?
Eternal life.
Well, heaven, yeah, well, let's connect that. It's eternal.
Different.
It is. It's a reward, but it's unending. Nobody's gonna take it away from you. That's the great thing about this reward. Think about the church, guys. Benefit?
Family.
Family. Let's break that one down. What's the benefits of having family, Matt?
Strength.
You've always got somebody to depend on and
Support system.
Support,
Edification.
edification, building up, right? All right, I like that. So you can break those down. Any other benefits that you can think of, Matt? Tom? Dan?
Some high praise there. No, loss becomes gain.
How's that?
Matthew 5:10, talking about those that are persecuted for the kingdom's sake and become the beneficiaries of it.
Okay, I like that. And so what we have there is the benefits of, can you give me one word? What, strength? Does it make you stronger? I mean, because of the persecution of what you've sacrificed, there is a contentment in that. There is a joy. There's a reward in that. It's almost like it's like somebody defending their country and coming home. Right? There was sacrifice. There's victory there, right? And so let me just put that word in. Victory. I think Nikki.
Accountability. It's
The
a lot
benefits.
harder to slip away into your sin when you've got a church family watching for you.
I like that, accountability. Oh, yeah, that was in the family. Yeah, I was breaking it down. I'm sorry, I'm going with different points here. Yeah, you become accountable. Do you find that helpful as brothers and sisters? Why do you find being accountable helpful to you?
Don't want to disappoint your family.
Don't want to disappoint? Anything else? Does it help? Growth? You know, we all kind of need those boundaries, right? It helps us stay on the straight and narrow. You know, you kind of have other people out there looking out for you. And so we've been, now Amy mentioned something a while back, when if you're going to talk about within this parable here, and the spiritual application is, he doesn't quite bring it out in the parable by saying, if he didn't find that treasure, he was suffering badly. Okay, so it doesn't bring that aspect out in the parable. However, for us, we understand that the benefits of knowing, which Amy mentioned, is the alternative. What's the alternative?
Sin, sinful life, hell.
Which some might enjoy. Okay, yeah. The alternative is being lost. You know, the alternative is you never have that. You don't have that peace that passes all understanding. Is there joy in sin? Is there joy?
There's enjoyment.
Sure there is. The Hebrew writer said the passing pleasure of sin. If there was no pleasure in sin, who would do it?
Nobody.
Yeah, there's pleasure in it. But it's temporary, is the point. It's not lasting. And so this is why he's talking about, you know what, you need to get a hold of a treasure that is lasting, okay, that's going to help you. All right, so there's one aspect of that we talked about tonight of trying to convince me, let's say I was outside the kingdom, that Chuck, you need to be in the kingdom. You need to become a Christian. You need to value heaven. You need to value the church, okay? How? Well, you told me the benefit. What's another motivation? What's another reason can you think of that's used within the scripture? Because he's talking about a person here who comes across and says, I see its value. We want to value it. Tim, what's another?
I know somebody else that can use that, or I know somebody else that can help with this treasure.
Wow, I like that. Let's put sharing. You know, when I think of, you know, you guys might not be Dave Ramsey fans, it doesn't matter. But Dave Ramsey always has the attitude of that when you're financially set, you'll be able to help other people. You'll be able to share, okay? Of course, we know as God's people, you don't have to wait until then to share what you have, right? We're always giving to the Lord. But when I think about gaining this, how do you not share? Tell me, anyone of you, what have you done in the past with good news? Hurry up. What have you done with good news?
Call someone.
You want to tell somebody, don't you? Man, something happens to me when I walk in that front door, I'm telling you, guess what? You know, I want her to guess, right? You'll never guess what just happened. Or what was it, yesterday I says, can you use some good news? She's always like, I love good news. And so once in a while I'll do that. I'll come in and can you use some good news? And people are interested in hearing that. It's called the good news for a reason, the gospel. And so we want to, as Mark 16, we want to go into all the world and we want to preach the gospel. But this is the thing. We're not going to sacrifice, as you guys were mentioning that list before. We're not going to have joy. We're not going to truly value all of that. We're not going to share it with people unless we appreciate it. Try to get people to evangelize today. Try to get Christians to talk to other people about it. Boy, I'm telling you, you don't have to twist my arm very hard to talk about my grandkids. Any grandparent will tell you that. Or parents talking about their kids. It's not hard to talk about it. So what we have to do is we have to get to the point where we're willing to talk about this. Matt?
I think if you find it easy to keep in, then that's a sign that it's not good news to you, because you asked a while ago, what do you do when you have good news? And Amy whispered to me, she's like, sometimes you hold on to it for weeks. And for us, that was tough. When we found out we were expecting,
isn't that the truth?
We had to keep it from a bunch of people. But during the time I was traveling a lot for business, and I'm staying in a hotel and I see a stranger on the elevator, I'm like, hey, my wife's pregnant. Like,
I couldn't tell strangers, you wouldn't even tell us.
I know. I couldn't tell anybody I knew, but I couldn't keep it in either. Like, even though I had to some extent, I was just busting at the seams. I was telling cashiers. I mean, there's people in Chicago, Seattle that know she's expecting.
Right.
And if I had found that easy to keep in, like, oh yeah, this is no problem sitting on this secret and keeping it from family, church family and all that, then it's not really good news to me. And so if you have an easy time keeping in your feelings about God, your feelings about the gospel, then you need to reevaluate how you view it. Is it really good news? Because you should want to bust at the seams to let it out to those who will listen.
And you're absolutely right about that, because we're getting back to it. It almost seems like we're using a circular discussion here. Like, I would share it if I valued it more, but I want to value it more so I can share it. So how can I share it? Well, you need to value it more. Well, how do I value it more? Well, you need to share it. You see, we're going in circles here. But I think it does come back to the understanding the benefits, and that, of course, once you get those in place, yeah, I mean, you know, your benefit, Matt, you're saying, I'm going to be a dad, right? You're sitting in, you know, I'm going to have a child. And so what are we going to share? I mean, we're not going up to people and saying, hey, look at this, look what I got here. What are we going to tell them? What are we sharing with people? Christian, what are we sharing?
The ability to save your life, spiritually speaking.
You're sharing the benefits. You're sharing. And of course, let's not forget this alternative here, because the reason why we're sharing is not only do we receive a great reward, you know, it's one thing that if you were drowning, guys, I think of illustrations on the fly here, so they're not great, okay? They're not great. But it's one thing to take you out of a bad situation where somebody was going to run over you and I saved your life, okay? And then you go, well, that's just, and now you're giving me $100,000 too on top. I mean, one was great, you know, you saved my life, and now you're giving me something. Listen, we get our sins washed away. Our lives are saved. But on top of that, then we get all these blessings, all these spiritual blessings that are found in Christ. It's no wonder we're sharing. Yeah.
We're sharing because somebody shared with us. And we're sharing because we want them to understand they need to share with somebody else.
That's exactly right. And of course, remember, when he finishes up this, he goes right into that, right into that parable. I can't believe time's gone already. Goes right into that parable of the dragnet and separating the good from the bad. I'm going to tell you, folks, the good and the bad with God isn't going to be that hard. Now, you and I might have a hard time, right? Because we can't read the hearts of men. We can't read their minds. We don't know what you do every day. You don't know what I do every day. You don't know what I think every day. All right? So you could be in sin right now, or you could be faithful. You know, we give each other the benefit of the doubt that we're godly people. That's wonderful. But I'm saying, with God, it's easy. It's like he's talking about here, because separating the good from the bad with the Lord is like, is your name written in the Lamb's book of life? Or has your name been blotted out? How does your name get blotted out, guys? How does it get blotted out? Yeah. Okay? Sin. I can spell sin. Yeah, I mean, and God knows what that is. The problem is, as we started up with our study today, creating a gray area. Okay, people get comfortable. And we're not going to do that, because what I've learned from this study tonight and hearing you guys talk and all your comments is helping me, number one, not only realize the value of heaven and the church and eternal life, but not to forget it. I think sometimes, and I can't say this because I haven't actually talked to millionaires, but does a millionaire ever forget that they're a millionaire? I mean, do they ever kind of take it for granted? I don't know. We might take for granted what we have. Being a Christian, we might treat that rather lightly. And I think if there's one thing I'm learning from here is this person was going to sacrifice. He knew what he had and he valued it. We need to be ashamed of ourselves if we start taking it for granted. And we don't show God how much joy there really is in our hearts. I'm going to tell you this much. How do godly people, tell me this, how do godly people feel when they can't make it to worship? Tell me how they feel.
Guilty.
If they can't.
I still feel guilty sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. That's if they could, and they do. Yeah, you just feel bad, right? You feel bad. It's almost like, it's like, how would you feel if you didn't go to heaven? Well, that would be a lot worse, Chuck, if I didn't get to go to heaven. Well, that's why, there's a correlation there, because there's this joy of wanting to be with brethren. There's this joy of wanting to worship God. It's not only just being with brethren. You can blot that out. You get to worship God. And again, this sharing. I know we only got a couple minutes left, but is there anything else that might come to your mind that might be a tool that you can use to motivate people, Misty?
It's taught. Titus chapter 2 teaches us that it's taught. You're taught is the value.
That's the bottom line, Paulus. I mean, it's just, you're going to have to study. You're going to have to study the Word, because you're going to have people who, if I can compare this to what goes on in the world today, this guy who finds the treasures, I can picture somebody coming up to him and say, "You sold all you had for that? Boy, you weren't too smart." Especially if they don't value it. Could that affect you? If somebody doesn't value, it's like coming with good news and they go, "Really?" Can that affect you? You could allow it. It could allow you. How does brethren become lukewarm, right? You can allow people to suck the life right out of you. I mean, you're so joyous and somebody comes in and says, "That's it? That's all you got?" Like Matt and Amy got this big announcement and go, "Really? People have been having kids since the beginning of time. Yoo-hoo. It's not a big deal." Well, there's a real downer, It comes from this. You got to go to the right source, like Misty's talking about. You want to be motivated about God, as far as what He's given to us, we have to study. That's what we do here. What we're doing is we're constantly reminded of it. Gene, you get last word.
I guess it'd be good if we all took the young ruler test.
What's that, Gene?
Sell all you got.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
You know, just wonder, would you do that?
I know. You know, people say, I'm glad the Lord didn't ask me to do it. Well, didn't He? If there's something coming between us and the Lord, He says, get rid of it.
10th chapter of Matthew.
Am I wrong? If there's something coming between you and God, I'm asking, is anything coming between you and God? Now, you might not have to get rid of it. I mean, if you wake up one day and your wife says, "No, I'm not going to church today," what do you say? See ya. See you in about 2 hours. You know, whatever. But yeah, it can bring you down. But guys, appreciate your thoughts. Good stuff tonight. Again, the next 2 weeks, the question sheets are at the back. They're a lot longer, so we'll be good.
I mean, depends on how bad it
You made bread. Oh, you made blood.
Just bread and bread.
I'd rather you make blood. Hey. No.
For the invitation, we're going to sing number 839. You turn your songbook to there. 839. All of God's singers get home. We'll sing all three of the verses. 839. What a song of delight in that city so bright, will be wafted near heaven's fair dome. How the ransom will raise happy songs in His praise, when all of God's singers get home. When all of God's singers get home, wherever a sorrow will come, there'll be no place like home. When all of God's singers get home. As we sing here on earth, song of sadness or mirth, 'tis a foretaste of rapture to come. But our joy can't compare with the glory up there, when all of God's singers get home. When all of God's singers get home, whenever a sorrow will come, there'll be no place like home. When all of God's singers get home. Having overcome sin, hallelujah, amen, will be heard in that land o'er the foam. Every heart will be light, and His face will be bright, when all of God's singers get home. When all of God's singers get home, whenever a sorrow will come, there'll be no place like home. When all of God's singers get home.
Please mark song number 103 as the invitation, 103. Have you ever had one of those days where you wake up, you hang your feet off the edge of the bed, and there's your dog's chew toy, or maybe a Lego that's right there fresh for your foot to step on first thing in the morning? It feels real good. Or maybe you get up and start walking and stub your toe on something, and it's just, then you burn your mouth with coffee or whatever, burn the toast, whatever it may be. But it's one of those mornings where you're like, you know what? I should just stay in bed. Just call in today, just stay in bed, and we'll restart again tomorrow. Well, we've all had them. And for me, that's been this week, not just this day, this week. It all started Saturday, well, technically Friday night. And I promise every bit of this story is true, no matter how unbelievable it sounds. So Chris and Mary Ellen come over to the house, and we're prepping for duck season. I mean, that's better than Christmas morning. Deer season, duck season, if you know me, it doesn't get much better than that. So we've got a boat, and we're putting together a blind. I've gotten all this material. We got PVC pipe, camo trim. I mean, we're getting this thing set up for tomorrow, and it's like, hey, this year we're going all out. We got a blind, we got a boat. Like, we may not kill a thing, but we're going to look the part. We're going to be legit. And we spend probably 3 hours Friday night working on this. We finally get done. I get all my gear. Him and Mary Ellen go home. I get all my gear together. And we're going to meet at 4:30 the next morning. So I finally get in bed about 11:30. But it's, like I said, it's like Christmas morning. I can't sleep. Getting up early doesn't bother me. You can get me up tell me I have to get up at 8 o'clock for work. I don't want to get up. Tell me I have to get up at 3 o'clock to go hunting, and I'm wide awake, no problem. So we get up, I get up, I meet Chris, we drive out to our hunting spot and get the boat put in. We get to where we're going. First off, we get to our spot, our main spot. This is the joys of hunting public land. Somebody's already there. So, okay, great. Well, we'll just start over. We'll go back to the spot we hunted last year. We saw some birds there. We'll head back there. So we head over there, get the boat over where we're going, get all of our gear over, and we can't get the blind put back together. We made the trim a little too tight, where when you pull one side, it falls over, pull the other side, it falls over. So it was just a nightmare. So it's like, okay, well, you know what, we'll manage. We'll take this trim, we'll cover up the boat so it's completely covered, and we'll be sitting out exposed, but that's okay. We're still out duck hunting, no big deal. So we're sitting there, and you can't the boat's kind of propped up on a little bit of an incline, like it's in the water, but also it's shallow enough where it's touching where we're sitting. So we're kind of sitting at a little bit of an angle. So it's not the most comfortable. And we both kind of lean back to try to reposition it. Well, when we do, I push a little too hard, and this is an old boat and old chairs in the boat. And the next thing I know, I'm laying on my back, my feet are straight up in the air, and I'm looking at the sky. Unfortunately, there were no ducks in the sky where I was looking. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, okay, this is a series of unfortunate events that's happened so far this morning. It's got to get better from here. And I look over at Chris, and he's biting his lip, and he knows I'm okay, and he just goes, hey, dude, can I laugh now? I'm like, yes, go ahead and laugh. So I get readjusted. We get readjusted, and his seat was old too, so we just throw the seats in the floor of the boat, and we sit on the edge of the boat. So from that point on, not a lot of bad happened. It was just kind of sitting there talking. I enjoy getting out there with anybody, but getting out there with Chris and talking and just talking about everything. You know, kids on the way, talking about work, talking about just everything under the sun. It's relaxing, and it's a great way to spend time for me with a fellow Christian. And so we don't really see a whole lot. It's not really a great morning for it. It's blistering sunshine, a beautiful, beautiful morning out, but not great for duck hunting. So we pack it up to head in, and we're out gathering decoys.
And where we're at, we're wearing chest waders and it's cold. And where we're at, there's little dips and holes. Well, I hit a little dip and hole and I start tumbling in. So what you do is you just drop to your knees. Well, fortunately, it was a little too deep there. So when I dropped to my knees, water over into the waders. You want to talk about taking your breath away. So I popped back up real quick, which same thing happened to Chris last year. And so I popped right back up real quick and he saw it happen and he can't help but laugh again. And at this point, I can't really either. So I'm thinking, okay, this is almost done. This nightmare is almost over. We'll start again next week. So then we had 2 decoys that were out a little deeper than the rest. And you could get to them. And so I start walking out there. Well, when I get about halfway to them, all of a sudden, I can just feel my boots and my waders start to fill with water. And it's very, very cold. Lo and behold, I have a hole in my waders that I did not know was there, but now I know it was there. So to throw it on top of everything, I look at the hole. It's an unpatchable hole, so there's a couple $100 down the drain for new waders. It was just a terrible day all around. That should have been my signal that, Matt, maybe this week's not going to be your week. Since then, had some other things happen, and it's just been frustrating. We all have those days. We all have those weeks from time to time, and it's one of those weeks where I'm just like, man, I cannot catch a break. Like what can go wrong has gone wrong, and it's only Wednesday, so I've still got a couple of days left. So if you don't see me Sunday, you won't see me Sunday morning, but if you don't hear from me at all Sunday, you might make sure Amy's, still good and I'm still good. But when I was thinking about all this, it's real easy to lose your temper, to get angry, to get frustrated with those things. And there's nothing wrong with being frustrated. There's nothing wrong with being upset, but there's an appropriate level there. You don't want to let it control you. You don't want to let it control every aspect of your life. Hopefully when you came in tonight and you saw me, you didn't look at me and be like, man, Matt looks like he's had a terrible week. Like everything that could happen has happened. Hopefully I haven't conveyed that. Maybe I have. I don't want to. But Amy, one thing she had to give me a little pep talk this morning because I got up and she's like, I hope you have a good day. And I was just kind of like, yeah, right. I already know it's not going to be a good day. Look at how this week is going. So she kind of has to snap me back into, put me in my place a little bit, which she did a good job of. But I was thinking about all this, and as I convey this to you, it seems really, dumb. I was duck hunting. One of my biggest complaints is, duck hunting didn't go, one of my hobbies, one of the things I enjoyed didn't go how I wanted it to go. And that's so trivial. It's so, I would go as far as to say childish for me to get upset about those things, no matter how inconvenient it may have been, no matter how upset I may have gotten. It's ridiculous to let it affect me to ruin the rest of my week. Now, that's not the only thing that has happened, but that really kind of started it off, and it really kind of set the mood for the things to follow. And it got me evaluating myself. How do I view things? How do I let things affect me? And do I let it affect me too much? Maybe you've been wronged by somebody. Maybe you've expected one thing and then not gotten that. It may not be just, things happening to you while you're hunting or while you're doing something else, but maybe somebody's done wrong to you. We all have that happen. We all have somebody that does wrong to us. But at the end of the day, I don't have a lot to complain about. When I look at my life now and the fact that I have a kid on the way, something that we've wanted for years, something that we've struggled with for years and prayed a lot about, anything that could go wrong during the day, that makes it all better. And we have to keep things in perspective and look at our problems. There are people out there that have so many more problems than I do. Look at Warren, having a medical issue that the doctors don't really know what's wrong. That's got to be a scary, scary thing. There's so many other people that have medical issues, so why should I let things control me like that? Look over at Psalms chapter 37. Psalms chapter 37, starting in verse 4, and we'll go through 15. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it only causes harm. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait on the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall be no more. Indeed, you will look carefully for his place, but it shall be no more. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plots against the just, and gnashes at him with his teeth. The Lord laughs at him, for he sees that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn the sword, and they have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, to slay those who are of upright conduct. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. You know, reading this, maybe somebody's wronged you. Maybe somebody's done wrong to you, and you see people all around that live in sin and they prosper. You know, they're healthy as can be, have all the money in the world, seem to have no problems and no issues, while, you know, we see fellow Christians that suffer and that struggle. And while you don't wish harm on anybody, but people that are profiting because of sin, they're going to get theirs one day. It's going to catch up with them. Now, we hope that they find their way to the gospel and make it right, and they can enjoy heaven with those that are saved, but it's going to happen. And you read here where it talks about that the wicked plot against the just, and they gnash their teeth. And then in verse 13, the Lord laughs at him. Why does the Lord laugh at him? Because he sees that his day is coming. God knows that eventually he's going to get his. Have you ever heard that expression before? You're going to get yours, or he's going to get his. God knows that eventually that person is going to get their punishment. Finally, look over at Philippians chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 10. But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at last your care for me has flourished again, though you surely did care, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in regard to need, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know now to be abased, and I know how to abound, everywhere and in all things. I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Nevertheless, you have done well that you shared in my distress. Now you Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church shared with me concerning giving and receiving, but you only. I have no problems. That's not to say that I don't come across things, you know, day to day that may be tough, may be difficult, but at the end of the day, we need to learn to be content in whatever state we are. And it's not easy, but our class tonight, I thought, really touched well with this. We have a prize. We have that treasure that he went and sold everything for. We have it. And it doesn't matter what happens on this earth. It doesn't matter who wrongs us. It doesn't matter how many holes we get in our waders and how cold we get and how many boats we tear up and shotguns we may lose and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, at the end of this life, we're going to have a home in heaven. And, you know, Amy mentioned today, she said, one of these days you're going to look back on some of the stuff that's happened this week. She said, it may be a couple years from now, but you're going to look back on some of this stuff and we're going to have a good laugh about it. And she's exactly right. Today may not be that day, but at the end of the day, I myself need to learn to be content in what I have, because compared to most, I really don't have any problems. And I need to find that joy and be happy, because at the end of the day, well, it's a race now, but I do have that kingdom. I do have that goal in the end to look forward to. So tonight, more of an invitation to myself than anybody else, but I found a lot of times that we all struggle with the same things. And as we mentioned, we're family, and we're here to support each other through the good and the bad. So if there's anyone here tonight that's not a Christian, you don't have that hope that we've talked about. You don't have that family bond that the rest of us do. And we want you to experience that. If there's anyone that's fallen away, that's what your family's here for. We're here to welcome you back with open arms, to help you with whatever you may be struggling with, because we all have the struggles, to ultimately have that home one day in heaven. So if there's anyone that needs to respond, please come forward as we stand and sing.
Come to Jesus, he will save you, though your sins as crimson flow.
If you give your heart to Jesus, He will make it white as snow. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Come to Jesus, do not tarry, enter in at mercy's gate. Holy reign until the morrow, lest our coming be too late. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Come to Jesus, dying sinner, other Savior there is none. He will share with you His glory when your pilgrimage is done. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come today. Thank Matt for his invitation, and I know we all have our own struggles and our own worries, but we do find consolation here in coming and being with the brethren, and we know that we can always lean on each other for prayers, and I think that's one thing we know we need to do for Warren during his health issues until they figure out what's wrong, and even after that, we need to continue to pray for him, that the doctors can find out what the situation is and remedy that, and he can have his health out without having to worry about what these issues are. So let's continue to pray for him, and I know we'll get an update when it comes out. Everybody will be communicated to once we hear something. Vincent?
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. First of all, I'd just like to thank God for my presence here tonight. And I'd just like to thank you guys for your prayers. And, I came home last Thursday, she came home Thursday. So I thank you guys for your prayers and continue to keep us in your prayers. And I had been here in a couple of weeks, but they dropped back, got me 10 hours a day, every single day. So,
well, you've benefited from being here. We benefit from you being here as well. So thanks a lot to your daughter's home, Matt.
We'll be gone this weekend, and the school horse are going to be gone as well.
Okay.
We'll be gone this weekend. We're going to Arkansas.
Okay. Sandy?
Stacy wasn't feeling well this evening.
Okay. So several traveling and several going to be not feeling well. And you're staying. And I'm staying for a while, right? There's a problem with being in the Netherlands and over in that whole area. You've only got 90 days you can stay within a 180-day period. So I've already stayed 102 days within a lesser period. So I have to wait until after January to go back. So that's a good problem. So I'll get to be here with everybody. So that's a good thing for me. So I don't know. Hopefully it's a good thing for you too. Who had the closing prayer tonight? Okay, Brian. So if there's no other announcements, then Brian leads the closing word of prayer.
Let's pray. Our Holy Father and God who art in heaven, we're thankful for the day that you have given to us. We're especially thankful, Father, for the time that we've had to be able to assemble here, to look into your word and to learn those truths that you would have us to. We pray, Father, that those things that we have learned, that we would apply in our lives, and that we might be able to walk in a way that would be pleasing and acceptable in thy sight. We know, Father, that there are a number that are not with us because of sickness. We continue our prayers for Vincent's Father, that she would continue to improve and gain strength, and hopefully that she'll be able to be with us at the next appointed time. We also pray, Father, for Stacy and others, especially Warren. Pray that things will go well with him, that they will be able to find out what's causing his issues, and pray that they'll have a remedy for it. If not, we know that your healing hand can do more wonders than the things of this life. And we pray that you'll be with him, Warren, and pray that you'll be able to touch him and heal him in such a way that he'll be with us again at the next point in time. We also realize, Father, that many of our number are traveling and will be traveling, and we humbly pray that you would watch over them and keep them safe, that their travels will be safe and they will be returned to us once again. All these favors and blessings we humbly ask in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.